Pet management responsibilities. Obligations to breed and manage companion animals. Facilities for breeding animals, etc. Must fulfill the following obligations stipulated in the Animal Protection Act for the hygiene and health of the animals. Owners, etc. must provide suitable food and water to the animals and make efforts to ensure that they have exercise, rest, and sleep. Owners, etc. must make efforts to promptly treat or take other necessary measures when the animals become ill or injured. Owners, etc. must make efforts to take necessary measures to help the animals adapt to the new environment when managing or moving the animals to another location. Owners, etc. must make efforts to ensure that the animals can safely evacuate. In the event of a disaster, obligation to attach a companion dog identification tag. An identification tag indicating the name of the registered animal, the owner's contact information, and other information stipulated by the Ministry of Agriculture. Food and Rural Affairs must be attached to the registered animal. Failure to do so will result in a fine of up to 500,000 won. Obligation to collect companion dog excrement. Excrement must be collected, and failure to do so will result in a fine of up to 500,000 won. Prohibition of driving while holding a companion animal. You may drive your car yourself and move with your companion animal. However, for safe driving, you must not drive while holding your companion animal. Management of fierce dogs. A person who wishes to raise a fierce dog, which is a registered animal, must obtain a permit to raise a fierce dog from the city provincial governor after completing the registration procedure in accordance with Article 15, insurance subscription, and neutering procedures in accordance with Article 23. If a person who violates this and raises a fierce dog without a permit to raise a fierce dog, he or she will be subject to imprisonment for up to 1 year or a fine of up to 10 million won. Fuss-sighted dog owners must comply with the following in case of violation. A fine of up to 3 million won may be imposed. Do not allow a dangerous dog to leave the place where it is kept without the owner. The dangerous dog of a person who has a dangerous dog breeding permit shall not leave the place where it is kept without the person who has a dangerous dog breeding permit, or a person with specialized knowledge on dangerous dog breeding, as prescribed by presidential decree. When going out with a dangerous dog that is 3 months or older, use a safety device, such as a leash and muzzle in accordance with the provisions of the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs Ordinance, or use an appropriate moving device to prevent the dangerous dog from escaping. In addition, follow the provisions of the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs Ordinance to prevent the dangerous dog from causing harm to people or animals. Dangerous dogs are not allowed to enter daycare centers, kindergartens, elementary schools, special schools, welfare facilities for the elderly, welfare facilities for the disabled, children's parks, children's play facilities, or other places used by an unspecified number of people, as prescribed by city or provincial ordinance. If you violate this, you may be subject to a fine of up to 3 million won. The mayor or provincial governor may revoke a permit to breed a vicious dog. If a pet injures a person. If a pet bites a person's leg and causes damage to another person, such as causing an injury, the pet must compensate for the damage, including medical expenses. In this case, the person responsible for compensating for damages is not only the owner of the pet, but also the person who raised, managed, or protected the pet for the owner hereinafter, referred to as owner, et. If a companion dog bites a person and causes injury or death, a person who causes bodily injury to a person due to negligence may be subject to a fine of up to 5 million won. detention, or a penalty surcharge. And a person who causes death to a person due to negligence may be subject to imprisonment for up to 2 years, or a fine of up to 7 million won. A person who injures or kills another person's companion dog. A person who injures or kills a companion dog owned by another person shall be subject to imprisonment for up to 3 years, or a fine of up to 7 million won. If safety measures are not taken for companion dogs. If the owner of a fierce dog, etc., violates the Act on the Management of Fierce Dogs and causes death to a person, he or she shall be subject to imprisonment for up to 3 years or a fine of up to 30 million won. If the owner of a pet causes bodily harm to a registered person, he shall be subject to imprisonment for not more than 2 years, or a fine of not more than 20 million won. If the owner of a registered animal causes bodily harm to a person by allowing the registered animal to leave the place where it is kept without the owner, or causes bodily harm to a person by violating any of the above, he shall be subject to imprisonment for not more than 2 years, or a fine of not more than 20 million won. Other cases related to companion animals. If a dog or other animal is made to attack a person or livestock, he shall be subject to a fine of not more than 100,000 won, detention, or a surcharge, or a fine of not more than 80,000 won. If a companion animal with a habit of causing harm to people or livestock is released without proper supervision or allowed to wander around, he shall be subject to a fine of not more than 100,000 won, detention, or a surcharge, or a fine of not more than 50,000 won. Cases where liability for negligent management of companion animals is exempted. However, if it is proven that the owner paid considerable attention to the management of the companion animal, he shall not be required to compensate the victim for damages. Punishment for pet abuses. A person who violates any of the provisions of Article 10, Paragraph 1 of the Animal Protection Act, or causes the death of a companion animal pursuant to Article 10, Paragraph 3, Subparagraph 2 and Article 10, Paragraph 4, Subparagraph 3 shall be subject to imprisonment for not more than 3 years, or a fine not exceeding 30 million won. A person who violates the Animal Protection Act and causes harm to an animal, or a person who violates any of the following shall be subject to imprisonment for not more than 2 years, or a fine of not more than 20 million won. Article 97, Paragraph 2 of the Animal Protection Act. An owner who abandons an animal in violation of Article 10, Paragraph 4, Subparagraph 1 of the Animal Protection Act. A person who sells, exhibits, or posts photos or videos on the Internet in violation of Article 10, Paragraph 5, Subparagraph 1. A person who uses animals for gambling purposes, or as prizes for gambling, competitions, lotteries, entertainment, or advertising in violation of Article 10, Paragraph 5, Subparagraph 2 or 3. A person who rents an animal for profit in violation of Article 10, Paragraph 5, Subparagraph 4, shall be subject to a fine of not more than 3 million won. Article 97, Paragraph 5 of the Animal Protection Act. Reporting animal abuse. Anyone who finds an animal that falls under any of the following may report it to the local government or animal protection center in charge. Article 39, Paragraph 1 of the Animal Protection Act. Animals subject to abuse prohibited in Article 10. Lost and abandoned animals. Rescue and protection of animals. The mayor, county governor, and district head must rescue and protect the following animals: lost and abandoned animals, abused animals whose owners are unknown, animals judged to be unable to receive proper treatment or protection due to abuse under Article 10, Paragraph 2 and Paragraph 4, Subparagraph 2 by their owners, et. In addition, animals falling under subparagraphs 2 and 3 must be isolated from the abuser to prevent recurrence of abuse. Prohibition on abandonment of pets. Pet owners, etc., must not abandon pets, and violators are subject to a fine of up to 3 million won. In particular, a person who abandons a vicious dog is subject to imprisonment for up to 2 years, or a fine of up to 20 million won. Prohibition on dumping of pet carcasses. Prohibition on dumping of carcasses. When a pet dies, the carcass must not be carelessly discarded anywhere. In particular, abandoning it in places with a high possibility of causing public harm, such as public waters, shared waters, and ports, is prohibited.